Oh boy, am I giddy. We're about to pay. We're about to pay with a credit card and process the payment on Stripe. That is the whole point of this part of the course. And so the way that we're going to achieve this is we're going to implement the Stripe SDK software development kit in our Firebase functions. That's how we're going to do this. And so the payment gateway that we're talking about here, right? We have our checkout, we have our payment button, but our payment button right now isn't connected to anything. It's just console logs. We want to change that console log into a console charge. Okay, bad joke, bad dad joke. But you know what I mean, right? We want to pay and we want to be able to see our payments on the payments screen. We want to see this happen. We want all of this good stuff, right? And so right now, what we're seeing is that some of the payments that I've done in the other app, right, the production app, have trickled through. And so what we're going to look at now is how exactly we're going to get this payment fee, process a Stripe payment. Now, if we go to the Node.js implementation of Stripe, on October 24th, 2013, they officially launched what was, I believe, the official Stripe Node.js package. Okay, so obviously it's been updated since then and improved, but during that time period, right, 2013 to now, that's 8 years, a lot of improvements must have happened. So this package is the package that we're going to use to talk on our behalf to Stripe. So you know what to do. We go over to Meals to Go, we cd into our functions folder, and we do yarn add Stripe. And by doing this inside of the functions folder, what we're achieving here is the ability to bootstrap, just like Stripe client in the front end, a Stripe client in the back end. Now they're different. They're different because on the front end, it's a limited subset of the Stripe SDK that's available to us. But on the back end in our Firebase functions, we have a whole world open to us. We can do anything. It's kind of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's up to your imagination. So with that said, what we need to do now is create that Stripe client. So over here, we have our Google client, obviously. And what we want to do now is const Stripe client is equal to the require of Stripe. But what we're going to do with this is we're going to say functions.config.stripe.key. And that is what we're going to use. Now, if you're unaware of how to add a configuration key, or you don't remember how to do this, please refer back to the Google videos in order to get this running locally if you've lost the ability or you forget which functions we ran and so forth. But the key that you're going to want to set on the Stripe.key, if we go over here and we go into developers and then we go into API keys, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the secret key. This is the key that you're going to want to copy paste into your Stripe.key. And so once you've done that, then you want to, of course, take those secrets and put them locally. And again, we showed that in the Google Firebase config series when we were doing our Google implementation. So just refer back to those videos if you're having a hard time remembering. And so just as a quick reminder, once you've set up your Firebase key, you can do Firebase functions config get, and you can do this little sign over here, right? The greater than sign. And so if you run this whole line, rather, I'll show it on one line. If you run Firebase functions config get greater than, and then to .runtime.config, this is going to take all of the config that is in your Firebase functions and put them in a local file. And that way you can run it locally. So now what we need to do is quickly restart our Firebase functions. And now we have a Stripe client that is bootstrapped. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I quickly want to rename all of these clients to Google client because we want to create a clear separation here between the Google client and the Stripe client that we're passing in. And then what we want to do is we want to export a new function and we want to call it pay. And then when we export pay, we're going to do something called a pay request. And we're going to use the Stripe client. Now, pay request is going to come from, well, you guessed it, pay. So /pay. And so over here in our Firebase functions, we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call that pay. And in pay, we're going to put an index.js, and we're going to export const pay request. We don't want to use that type of syntax. We're going to do module.exports. So we're going to do module.exports and module.exports.pay request. And then what we're going to do, and you can see here, I get tripped up between the different types of syntax I need to use between different libraries. It happens. All of these different types of infrastructure can expect different types of syntax. So over here, we're using the module syntax. So what we're getting is request, response, and then we're getting the Stripe client, right? And so with that, now we can go ahead and we can do a res.send. This is my payment gateway. And with that comes the ability for us to be able to, well, response.send first of all. With that comes the ability for us to talk to our response gateway. Now, if we look over here, if we go to Meals to Go Pay, we'll see this is my payment gateway.